Today on This, That, and the Other, we're working on the biggest piece of junk I own, 1963 Volkswagen Beetle. In the last video, part one of the biggest piece of junk I own, we got this thing looking really good with an awesome patina, a paint job, but nice patina type of finish on it. Today, however, we're getting into the part that I absolutely dread the most, which is working on this engine. 1971 Volkswagen 1600cc dual port engine. Supposed to be one of the better engines that VW made. I'm still trying to find the better part of it. So let's get into this video and see if we can get this thing fixed up, because at the end, we need to do some ripping on it. All right, we got Bo here with us, shop foreman, putting in the work as well. He knows how much I despise this engine, this whole driveline assembly. If you're a Volkswagen guy, you're gonna hear me talk a lot of trash. Get down in the comments, educate me. Tell me where I'm missing it. How is this such a great engine? Because all this thing does, it gives me misery day after day. So get down in the comments, let me know. What are we working on today? To sum it up, everything. We're working on fueling system. We're working on putting into timing. We're working on clutch linkage adjustment. There's really not a lot that we don't have to work on, because everything gets worked on in this video. So the whole goal is to get this thing roadworthy enough, get it back on the road, get it back to ripping on some dirt roads. Let's see if we can make it happen. So our carburetor we're going to have here is actually from the company J-Buds, and so far it's been a pretty good carburetor for the most part. As far as a remanufactured carburetor coming like directly out of the box, it hasn't been too bad. This is the, what did it be, the 34 PIT, P-I-C-T, I don't know what the P-I-C-T means, but 34 series carburetor, single barrel. I actually have good friend and student, Brandon, we're finishing up classes. He actually went through and cleaned through on this carb on it, and we had the jets completely clawed. The jets are completely clawed. I've always defended these things, and this is the second video now where it's failed me. It's really hard to see on the camera. There is all types of little crap that's in that filter, but it's actually getting past the filter and ending up in the carb. So the main jets were definitely clogged on that carb whenever he cleaned it out. That carb has been cleaned. Let's get it bolted back on, get a new filter on it, and see where our fueling system's at to start with.
To the town of our Freer rode a stranger one fine day. Hardly spoke to folks around him, didn't have too much to say. No one dared to ask his business, no one dared to make a slip. The stranger there among them had a big iron on his hip, a big iron on his hip. It was early in the morning when he rode into the town. He came riding from the south side, slowly looking all around. He's an outlaw, loose and running,
All right, VW guys, why you got to put the bolt on the very far back here? I could imagine if this thing, so little context, this thing's actually been modified into a Baja Bug at some point, which I think is absolutely sweet. I like it 10 times more than the fiberglass, you know, different parts and stuff. But I couldn't imagine working on this thing as just a Beetle that still has all the skirts and stuff. It's amazing how open an engine can be, but how unaccessible an engine can be too. So I'm gonna try to cram my man hands in there and try to reach that back bolt. Haha, beat you. All right, carb's bolted on. Now we need to get this old, so many people hate on these things, and I've defended them for so long. It's made so much sense. The thing's cleanable. It's expensive, but glass case and stuff, they're notorious for starting to leak, which this one isn't doing. But if you go back to our Chevelle video, it was leaking in it. We got to get this guy swapped out. We're just going to put a little plastic guy on it that'll hopefully keep the crap on this side of the filter and not actually in our bowls. If you've ever watched the movie The Patriot, one of my favorite quotes in there is, "Lord, make me fast and accurate," and that is what we're going to try to do here as we leak fuel all over everywhere. Not bad. Oh yeah, it's going everywhere now. Yeah, I'd say she's definitely clogged. Clogging. Get her drained back out the outlet. I'm gonna take this hose off anyway. You can see all that junk caked up in there. The problem is it's not just staying in there, it's ending up in our bowls. You can't tell me that this isn't a cool idea though. To have this thing thread on, cleanable, removable, everything else, glass screen, rinse it out, hose it out, and it's good to go back to use again. But it's failed me twice now, or not this particular one, but this style has failed me twice now in under a couple months. So I think I'm off their bandwagon. I think it's on to the old plastic filters. Now, are we using the right plastic filter? No. We're going to use one that's actually meant for a lawnmower. I figured this thing doesn't have enough more power than a lawnmower, so it's got to be the right size, right? Let's get him put on there and get him sized up to it. Now, something that I may show later on that it's not going to be in the video me actually installing it is this thing does have a fuel pump on it now. The old mechanical pump finally gave up the smoke, and that seems to be a pretty common thing on these, is the mechanical fuel pumps failing. So instead of it ended up on the side of the road, I figured, or like they say, keep a spare one in the back. Like, do I need to bring an entire engine in the back of a Volkswagen so that way I got my spare parts? But instead of doing that, I just put an old clickety-clack on there, a little bit higher end clickety-clack, but still probably going to be junk. And I'll probably end up trying to be broke down on the side of the road. All right, see if we can get some fuel pumped up to that new filter. That gum, she don't waste no time though. We already got her filled up in there. See how the bowls are doing. It's usually good to hook up your automatic choke whenever you're doing this before you start doing it. So let's see if I can get down in there. I don't think you're going to be able to see the accelerator pump squirting, but the thing's actually actuating great. Before it was just kind of dribbling out of there, but now it's actually got a good shot to it. So hopefully that'll fix a lot of the stumbling initially this thing's going to have. So all right, now carburetor's at least temporarily there. Let's talk about our distributor. So what this had before in the last video you seen, shout out for Ian who put the distributor in. The distributor that was in it before was just a simple mechanical advance. Now we have vacuum advance, which is supposed to have better just cruisability down the highway. Couple things whenever it comes to setting timing with these. First, they are super easy. We're gonna have 2 notches. I need to get this thing spun around right quick. Let's get them spun around. There's basically 2 notches. Now there's different styles for different pulleys and stuff that may have different things with them. Let's see, where's this guy at? There we go. Okay. So there's like 3 or 4 different common pulleys. The pulley that I have is actually a dimple here and a notch, as you see right here. This dimple is top dead center. This notch, however, is actually 7.5 degrees advanced with it. 2 things. To set top dead center, you see the center where these 2 cases break apart. That is actually going to serve as our point to have this top dead center dot dialed at first. But as we can see, the rotor buds pointed all the way out to here. There's 2 things. We're going to spin this thing all the way back around. If you have a vacuum advanced distributor, we're going to see them pointing way back in here, actually towards number 1. But if you have just a mechanical advance, it'll actually point up in here. So let's get her spun around. You'll be able to see it right quick. Let's see if we can get this cap pulled off here right quick. Maybe be easier to see. All Okay, yeah, we can see it now. So we can see where rotor bud's pointed all the way over here. We need to get ours actually pointed into there. Now that'd be one full revolution. So we'll still have our little dot on the pulley. We'll still end up with him back in the center of the case. He'll just actually be where he needs to be on true top dead center, not 180 out. Okay, so we see him coming around, but we're also seeing this dot come back around. The dot specifically is about right here. So now we need to get him lined up. So a couple things to note once again. If you have vacuum advance, he's gonna point, get centered again. He's gonna be pointing to the back cylinder. If you have non-vacuum advance, he's actually gonna be pointing right here whenever you're on top dead center. Now for us, we don't actually want to time this thing to top dead center. Most buds, I don't know the whole history on buds, but I've done a lot of research with this. This one in particular, most buds like that 7.5 in advance. I'm trying to think. There's a measurement, even if you only have this dial, I'm gonna have to look it back up again. I think it's like 7/16 of an inch or something like that to push it over. I'll make a measurement right quick and see what it actually is just to tell you. But ours actually needs, where that little notch is there, that notch needs to be lined up with the center of the case right there. So what we're gonna do is now loosen up, calm down there camera. Come on, flip around. We're gonna loosen up this nut that's here, and then this thing's still upside down. Loosen up the nut that's here, and we'll be able to actually use a test light and set ourselves the rest of the way. So the part in the last video, whenever we were stuck on the side of the road, was because this nut never got tightened down whenever the distributor got installed. So it was actually set in perfect time, but you start driving down the road and it starts wobbling around. Before you know it, you have variable timing on this thing. We don't want that. The hard part of what I had was I knew the notch trick here. I could see it through the cap where the bug was, but getting that fine-tunedness of the actual distributor set, that was the part that I couldn't really do other than just by sound. So what we need to do is figure out where we're kind of at as far as where adjustment needs to be. And to do that, I will praise VW on a super simple concept. All you need is a very basic test light. So I'm gonna get 12-volt power off of this coil here. I will have to go turn the key on, but essentially what's gonna happen is I just have to find a good way to make contact. And now, as I'm turning, this light will come on, and that's actually where perfect timing is with our distributor. So I'm gonna go turn that key on right quick, and let's give her a shot and see how close we actually were. All right, so we just got to find a good ground. We'll do one there, or good connection really. So once we get to where our timing should be, we should see this light turn on, just like that. You see the light turn on there. Make sure we got it in the video. We see our light on. Now if I turn it back the other way, we see the light go off. As soon as that light, where's he at? As soon as he hits, that's where I want him to be locked in at. So super simple. I'm gonna turn that key off right quick so we're not running the pump. I will praise VW on that. To say that all I need is a test light and I can make my, like a literal test light. I don't even need a timing light to do this. And now I'm set perfect, top dead center, 7.5 degrees advance, perfect on my distributor placement. That's hard to beat. Now Ian, if you're watching this, we're gonna show this super complicated tool. 10mm socket, ratchet. Oh, we're gonna tighten her down. All the way, get her snug. Perfect, and that way we don't have variable timing going down the highway again. We got our master tuner at the carburetor now. Well, maybe the exhaust, or whatever that screwdriver fits in. You getting it fit, Stales? Careful. All right, no surprise here. It's a whole nother day and we're still working on this piece of junk. So I think I've had a lot of time to decompress on it, have a lot of time to pray on it, and we're just gonna start at the basis and build everything up from there. I think everything at this point is out of adjustment. One thing I wanna make a note of is you just seen us getting our static timing set for our distributor. I said 12 volt power. It's actually a ground there, which our condenser is going to. So just to make sure, not 12 volt power, but actually the ground cable that's going to our coil there. Moving on from that though, I think we just need to start fresh with distributor's done. We got him marked off. Valve set, which is what we're getting ready to do next. We need to set these valves, then get into our carb tuning, then double check our timing with a timing light. If it ain't running at that point, I'm out of ideas. So let's give it a go. So as we go adjusting our valves, you can see we've already got the valve cover or rocker cover, whatever you want to call it. We've got it off now, but if we look at this is also a very simple process. If we look at our crank pulley here, we still have it set at our static timing point of the 7.5 degrees advance. We need it to actually be at top dead center, which is where that little dimple is. So we actually need to turn, see if I can do it with one hand, turn to where that dimple is now in line there. But what we also need to have is, if we look back there, that rotor bud needs to be pointed at number 1 cylinder. Now, number 1 cylinder is here. Should be 1, 2, 3 in the back, and then 4 if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check right quick. But there's where we need to be started at with it. Let's get the camera repositioned and we'll get going with it. All right, so with number 1 cylinder back here, we're currently on top dead center, and we see there's actually some looseness between them. Now this one I'd already done already, so he's pretty well set where he needs to be. So he's gonna be our demo, and then we'll do one more that just kind of shows. They were excessively tight, which wasn't helping me any as far as valve lash goes. To do valve lash is very simple. I don't know if you can read it, but that is 0.006 or 0.152 millimeters. Whenever we're setting valves, we don't need them to be, we need to have some wiggle room. I've actually seen a guy before described it as pretend there's a magnet in there and it's kind of pushing it around. So you don't want it to just fall out, be loose, but you don't want it in there so tight that you can't just wiggle it around. And you can see on both of these valves, we pretty well have that. This guy, he's pretty good. So both of these guys will be good. Going on to cylinder number 2, this is actually a super simple process. We just need to take her back another 180 degrees. So we'll do one full turn back and we're ready to go again. So let's hop into it. All right, so there we are pointing at number 1 cylinder. There we are, top dead center with it. We just need to go back 180 degrees and we will end up with cylinder number 2, which is where he's at on the distributor there. So let's start taking them back. Now we don't want to go too far. 180 degrees is not a full turn, that's 360 degrees. And what we've done, and I'll show it to you, we've actually made a little cheater mark right there as well at 180 degrees. Now if you've got like a degree specific crank, this would be 10 times easier, but we don't, so we're just kind of eyeballing that based on where he is. So hopefully we'll be close, but we see him be pretty close whenever he's pointing at number 2 cylinder in the back. So now we'll be good to actually adjust both of these valves, and as you can see, they are excessively loose, which could be another big source of a problem. So let's get you reset, kind of set up down low, and I'll go through the process. Okay, so to set these valves, that looseness, not our friend right now, but what we need is a flathead screwdriver. It doesn't matter which one we do because we're doing them both at this point. Flathead screwdriver actually goes right in there on that stud, and then additionally we end up with the wrench on that nut, and this is what controls, basically the screwdriver is what controls how tight it is, and then the locking nut, the nut literally locks it into place. So let's see if I can get you set up and you can see me do this all in the same time. So just need to break that nut loose at first, and then I definitely got room to take him in. Okay, now we're gonna get our feeler gauge in and see what we got. Try not to bend that feeler gauge as you're putting it in there. Try to keep it going in there straight. Once again, we're after that kind of, should feel like there's a magnet kind of resisting it through there. We're gonna give them just a little bit more, I think. Okay, now he's too tight. Okay, always double check it after you tighten it just to make sure nothing's moved. And it definitely moved because that's super tight now. All right, there's that sweet spot. Perfect. So you see both of them perfect now. All we do is just keep the same process going. So we're going another 180 degrees around. We're gonna see the rotor bud move. And we're gonna see our center divot point come back up to the top again. Oops, don't go too far. Okay, center divot lined up. We're pointing now at number 4, which all of these have it stamped in their firing order too. So we're going here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 is how we're doing. So we're pointing at number 3 right now, which will be our rear facing, our rear cylinder back here is where we're at next. Okay, so we got all the valves lashed. We got our valve covers back on. Now let's get into the carb. We've talked about it a little bit. We basically have 2 screws that are here. One's going to control our main kind of air and idle. The secondary one is going to control the bottom one right down there. It's basically kind of our fuel mixture with it. Bottom one, I think they call it the volume screw. Recommend it to be 2 to 3 threads out. We got ours at 2.5. I had no recommendation on, I couldn't find a recommendation on where to put this kind of air and idle control screw here. I did it 1.5 out. So we're gonna get this thing pushed outside and start it up and see where are we at. Are we close to running good or are we not running good at all? Let's find out. Sounding pretty good. Let's get her back to the shop and check on everything. And that wraps up another one here on This, That, and the Other. 63 Baja Bud, one of the worst vehicles I've ever owned. I hate to say it out loud. Running pretty good so far. So check us out on the next video where you never know what the next video might be. By the way, it wouldn't be the bug if something didn't decide to brake. So we got valve cover gaskets to get, but hey, she's running. We'll take it.
And he's here to do some business with a big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. In this town there lived an outlaw by the name of Texas Red. Many men had tried to take him, and that many men were dead. He was vicious and a killer, though a youth of 24, and the notches on his pistol numbered 1 in 19 more. 1 in 19 more. Now the stranger started talking.